former counselor to President Trump, host of Here's the Deal with Kellyanne on Fox Nation. Kellyanne, thank you for coming back on. So now the question is, will Congress get moving? But is the administration, is the White House messaging right on tax cuts, in your judgment?
Larry, there's so much going on with this Trump volume and velocity in a given day. They're bringing astronauts back from space. He's negotiating peace with Russia and Ukraine, and certainly in the Middle East, bringing home hostages, that we can't lose focus and pick the wrong fight and exclude the tax conversation day in and day out. And here's why. The country says that they have had a tax on their households and on their small businesses for the last 4 years under Biden-Harris because of inflation. Inflation was basically a tax. People calling tariffs a tax are missing the point. Tariffs are like the old sanctions. President Trump is using tariffs to incentivize or compel transformative changes in your behavior. He says to Canada and Mexico, get your drugs and your criminals out of our country. He's saying to the EU, China, everyone else, buy more American goods. We want to be an exporting country, not an importing country. But the tax piece is what's animating most of America. Why? They know that if those Tax Cut and Jobs Act benefits to them from 2017 were to expire, were not to be extended, let alone expanded, that they would be in trouble. Their economic wherewithal, their personal portfolio would shrink. And in corporate America, we would have more corporate incursions. 100 companies had done a corporate incursion before Trump passed that Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and then none since under his watch. All the money, the billions that have been repatriated that was parked legally overseas, that came back where people were raising the wages, $20 minimum wage, some of these companies, bolstering their health care benefits and retirement benefits, investing in research, development, innovation, inventory. So these tax cuts are so important to people. When you look at 100% business deductions, expensing, when you look at medical device tax gone, when you look at some of those deductions and exemptions that remained, now the president's going to have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. He wants to bring back some of the SALT benefits. So this is what's important to the kitchen table economics, to the cappuccino counter economics, and certainly to small business. Yes,
I love that. Of course I do, the kitchen table economics. I mean, I look at it, you're right. The tariff business is a transformative, more people going to invest in the United States. It'll help our factories and so forth. And already foreign investment pledges are pouring in. But. The tax bill puts money in people's wallets and pocketbooks. All right, gives them money, actually additional money. And who knows, the revenues could be coming in from tariffs and Doge and whatnot. We might even get a Doge dividend. I'm just saying, tax cuts give you more money. And I think that's a really important message. And
people
I think
know it,
they need to push harder on that message, okay? I want to see more money in your wallet from tax cuts and maybe a little less discussion of tariffs right now. That's what I'd like to see.
Well, certainly, and that should happen every time somebody from Capitol Hill is on, who's working on reconciliation, which includes Tax Cut and Jobs Act extension, obviously, and expansion. Secretary Besson, I think it's a great conversation for him to be guiding us about that, how it will benefit everyone. And Larry, here's the other thing. When you talk about tariffs, people have to price in this massive dereg agenda, this energy dominance, the president holding China to account on shipbuilding and ports, on coal, on forced technology transfers, on AI. You've got to price in the tax cuts. You've got to price in potentially a smaller federal government footprint through Doge, whatever that ends up looking like. And you know what, Larry? People know that the cost of goods went up for 4 straight years stubbornly, and we didn't have these tariffs. So here's the difference. Whereas some in corporate America, some of these countries are belly aching, Wall Street certainly is, the people themselves are going to continue to give Donald Trump space and grace to get us back to those 2019 levels of the interest rates, of the unemployment rates, of the cost of goods and services. They have faith that he's doing something transformative and generational to our macro economy, and they're going to have a lot more patience. Patience is a virtue here than some of these elite and effete in academic institutions, in the media, certainly some on Wall Street, respectfully. They loved the pace of this change that Trump was doing until they felt like it was goring their ox. You've got to look at this as taxes, regulation, energy, tariffs, trade, smaller federal government footprint. And may I just say something about DOGE? It's actually DOGE right now. We're still in the Department of Government Inefficiency. They're identifying all the fraud, waste, and abuse. We're not even on the efficiency side of the ledger yet, Larry. Imagine when we get there and we're implementing best practices from the private sector, the public sector, and things are just slimmer and trimmer and more efficient.
You know, listening to you talk about all this, with which I completely agree, you know, the young kids, the kids who voted for Trump, he did so well with the youth vote, so-called, quote unquote, the youth vote. They want more money in their pockets. They want a raise. They haven't had a raise because of the Biden inflation that's gone on so much. They want a good down payment for their house. They'd like to see lower mortgage rates. They know that the old guy that they threw out really hurt them a lot. And the new guy they voted in, they want him to succeed, but they want him to do this stuff. And I think that's a key message. There's too much. You're right. Scott Bessent, brilliant guy. He's doing a good job. I want to see tax cuts. Don't make when you get interviewed, don't make the first sentence about tariffs. Same thing for my pal, Kevin Hassett, and the rest of them. We had Steve Myron on last night. He was pretty good, but of course I asked him questions on tariffs. But get the tax cut in there first. Start there, and then work your way through the interview. Message, right? You taught me messaging all the time. That is Kellyanne Conway's specialty, and you're so good at it, and I think we all learned from you in the first term.
Thank you, Larry. And may I just say very quickly, the Democrats are looking for new messengers and a new message. This is the time for the Republicans to really burnish the brand as fiscal conservatives, as tax cutters, deregulators, energy producers, the whole lot. Chuck Schumer's afraid to go on the book tour, and he goes on The View. That sounds scarier. But look, they're flailing around. Instead of a couple Democrats, Larry, like the 11 Democrats in the House who won in districts Trump won, where are the 5 or 6 of those 11 saying, you know what, I'm going to come on board. I'm going to vote for that reconciliation package because I think that extending those tax cuts helps the small business owners and the wage earners in my district. They are suffering from not just Trump derangement syndrome, but they don't have any kind of fiscal know-how that what the country wants. And that begins with restoring and expanding those tax cuts.
Fabulous stuff. Kellyanne Conway, can't thank you enough. Appreciate it.